guys, so for today's video I am going to be doing like this glitter swirl spring design. I don't really know what to call it, but to start off I'm taking Cuffing Season from Ballpit, and I'm only applying one coat of this, and then I cure this for 60 seconds. And the reason why I did one coat of this was because I have some polygels that I have, because I used to always use polygel. I low-key have been wanting to use polygel again and like do some polygel sets because I really like polygel. I honestly couldn't tell you why I switched over to doing hard gel over polygel, but and how many times can I say polygel? Jeez Louise. Anyhow, I was looking at my polygels that I have in my drawer, and there's one that I absolutely love. It's like a clear based polygel with like iridescent glitters in it. I think they're like hexagon, pentagon, I don't know, one of the gons shaped iridescent glitters in it, and it is so pretty. I've only ever used it one time because I'm like, I don't want to ever run out of this. And I bought it several years ago from Amazon. It's a Model 1's polygel. You'll see it here in a little bit. Anyhow, it's clear, and I didn't want these nails to be clear, so I did do one layer of, or I didn't want it to be completely clear. I did do one layer of this nude color to kind of mimic like if you were to put this over your natural nails almost. So like you're gonna have like the nude from your natural nails showing through a little bit, so it's not like fully clear, you know, if that makes any kind of sense. So I just did one coat of that, cured that for 60 seconds, and then this is the polygel that I am using. It's so pretty. Like I said, I have used it once years ago. I don't know if this particular polygel exists anymore, because you know, after some years sometimes brands will get rid of a color or something that, or that you know, you really liked or whatever. And like I said, this is pretty old. It's well over 5 years old. Actually, it's honestly probably closer to 10 years old at this point. So yeah, I'll try and see if I can find it again. I don't know. I'm sure there are similar polygels to this out there that you could find, but I just think it's super pretty, and I love the glitters in it because they are iridescent. Like, depending on the way you're looking at the nail, you might see the glitters or you might not. You can kind of see here as I'm applying it, like the shift of them, and how like when I hold it one way you can see some of the glitters, and when I hold it a different way you can see different glitters. And it's just super pretty, and I love it. And I really wanted to use it. I didn't know what I was going to be doing with this set or the design that I was going to end up doing on it, but I knew I really wanted to use this polygel because it is so pretty. So I just took a little tiny bit of it and squeezed it out onto the nail. I wanted to keep this layer as thin as possible because I didn't want to end up having to do a whole lot of filing and all of that. I've mentioned before, I hate applying like builder gel or acrylic or polygel onto press-on nails because then you gotta file it, and it's really annoying, and I hate filing like press-on nails. It's annoying and difficult, and I just don't want to do it. So I was trying to keep this layer as thin and even as possible, so that way I hopefully wouldn't have to do any filing. I did end up having to do a little bit of filing, but I will get to that in a minute. So I just took the tiniest amount, squeezed it on, and then I took this brush here. It's some cheap gel applicator brush that I got off of Amazon some years ago. I honestly don't recommend this brush. I'm not even gonna link it down below because it is super cheap and it falls apart really easily. I went through so many of these brushes, and they come in a kit of a bunch of different sized brushes, and all of them like fall apart and fray super easy, because they are so cheap. I think it was like a pack of 12 or something for like $2. And that's not always a bad thing to like have cheap brushes or whatever, but like they were cheap, but they were also cheaply made, and honestly just not worth it. You're better off just buying something a little more high quality than these, because they fell apart very easily. And like I said, I went through so many of these stupid brushes because they were just falling apart left and right. So yeah, I just went through, applied this, and once I got the Polygel on, I did just set the nails off to the side on like the stand that they're on, to kind of like, so they can sit and settle and like level out a little bit, and hopefully like, you know, make it so I wouldn't have to do a whole lot of filing afterwards. And then once I got them all done, I did go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. to not have to encapsulate these, because then with encapsulating I would most likely end up having to file, and like I said, I was trying to avoid that, but I did end up having to encapsulate them because the glitter in some spots was sticking up a little bit, and obviously if you're doing nail art on top, that's not gonna work out very well, because then you're gonna have a difficult time like painting on top of it, and it's going to be, you know, making it just difficult to do any nail art on top. So to encapsulate them, I'm just using my rubber base from LGN. I didn't want to use like hard gel or anything, just because I didn't want to use it. So what I did was I did a thin layer on the nail, which was my slip layer, and then I took a bigger glob of the base gel and then just floated that on top and did it like how I would if I were to be building up a normal nail with, like, you know, hard gel or just like any kind of builder gel, you know, just basically did like a rubber base kind of nail. You know, if you've ever seen anybody do like nails with rubber base. Anyhow, did that, and then I was curing each nail like in between, because it does run a lot and I didn't want it running off of the nail. I also didn't want it to like flatten out too much and make it so it was basically pointless for me to have done that step. So anyhow, cured that, got that all cured for 60 seconds on all of the nails, and then I did do some filing and buffing off camera. Didn't film any of that because I don't know, just didn't want to film it. Also, I hate filming like filing stuff because of the way I hold it, and like when I'm trying to look at it and like see how I'm filing or whatever, I'm always like out of frame, out of focus. So, and plus bringing the dust collector onto my desk and like filming, it's just annoying. So filed and buffed them all off camera, and now I'm just taking Butterfly Babe from Ballpit and mixing in some of the white to get a pastel purple, because I decided I wanted the nail art that I'm going to do on top to be pastel purple because it's spring and I'm ready to do more like springtime type of designs and use more brighter pastel type of colors to give the spring vibes. The white, blue, and pink on this palette I did not use. That was from a different set that I filmed right before filming this one. I just didn't clean off the palette yet, and yeah, so I'm only using the purple for this set. And whenever I mix up colors, I always say to mix up more than you think you're going to need. That way you have enough for everything you're doing, instead of trying to mix up another batch of it and trying to color match it, because you more than likely won't be able to get an exact color match since you're not like getting exact measurements of how much of each color you're using. You might be able to get it pretty close, but it's not going to be exact. So that's why I always say mix up more than what you think you're going to need. So at this point I'm just going back and forth between the white, adding white and purple and whatever to try and get the exact shade of purple that I wanted. Like I wanted a light pastel purple, but I didn't want it super super light. Like you saw, I added a bunch of white into it and it was like practically white with like a hint of purple, which wasn't what I was wanting. I did want it to be a little more purple than that, so just mixing that around until I get it the way that I wanted it. And then once I did get it to the shade that I wanted, I went in and tried a design. Like I said earlier, I didn't really know what exactly I was doing with this set. I just knew I wanted to use that polygel. So here I am going in and doing a French tip, because I thought I was going to do like a French tip design with this, and then I don't know what exactly I was going to do, but then I didn't like it. I think I tried to do a couple different French tips because I didn't like how that one looked. Like I don't know, the way I did the French tip the first time, I didn't like it. And so I tried it again, and it ended up, I just didn't like the French tip design anyways. It wasn't anything like how I was doing it and like the style of French tip I was doing, because you know, you have like the old school French tip, you have modern French tip, you have like the straight across French tip, you could do V French, asymmetrical, all that. I just wasn't feeling the French tip for this design. Like, it was covering up too much of the glitter, and because I did this set specifically for this glitter polygel, I wanted to see a lot more of it. So I just ended up deciding the French tip was not the move. I already wasn't liking it just with the outline, but I was like, let me just fill it all in, see what it looks like, see how I feel that way. And yeah, I ended up not liking it, wiping it off, and then I was kind of stuck and didn't really know what to do. So I sat for a while trying to think, like, what am I gonna do? I couldn't come up with anything. I was drawing a blank. I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is the problem with like freestyling sets sometimes, because you'll see one thing that you want to use, or you know, one thing that you want to do on one nail, or like the base color you want to use, and so you do that. But then when it comes to the rest of the nails and the rest of the design and all of that, you kind of are just like, what do I do now? Because sometimes, I don't know, it's a little difficult whenever you're doing freestyling sometimes, but I do really enjoy freestyling sets, and that's pretty much what I always do. I get an idea of like for this set, I'm like, I want to use this glitter polygel. What am I going to do? I don't know, but I'm using this glitter polygel, and then that's why I'm struggling so much to try and figure out what to do with it, because I didn't plan it. So yeah, while freestyling sets are really fun, and that's like, you know, my go-to on what to do, I don't plan. It can be a little tricky sometimes, but it really, I feel like it really helps to like do freestyle sets, because then you can, it makes it a little bit easier to think like off the top of your head, like, you know, oh, I can do this design and it's going to look good with this design, or like, you know, if something doesn't work out, you can easily switch gears and do something else. Like, you know, if you plan a set and a design isn't working out, or it's not looking good with the rest of the set, like, you can easily switch and be like, okay, I can do this instead, you know? Anyhow, so finally, after sitting there for a little bit, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna start filming and start painting, and we'll see what comes of it. So you can see here, I did this kind of thick, like swirly, wavy type of line on the nail, and then once I got that on, I'm like, I don't know what to do to this, but I really liked how that line looked, so I did go ahead and flash cure it, because I'm like, I want this line, but what am I gonna do for the rest of the set? I don't know. So flash cured that, and now then as that was curing, I'm like, ooh, I can just do all kinds of like swirly, wiggly lines or whatever on here, and just have like a really kind of like whimsical kind of set, I guess. So I was like, I'm gonna try that out. We're gonna see how this looks, just doing like little swirls and whatever. So I have that one thick swirly line there, and then I decided for the next line I was going to make it a little bit thinner. So that way I just have like one thick line and then maybe a few thinner lines. I wasn't 100% sure, but I was going to try it out and see. If I didn't like it, I could easily just wipe it off. So that's what I did. I went in with my liner brush. I think that's my 15mm liner brush that I'm using for this. So I could get those nice long lines and like get them thin and whatever. So I do this thin little line and I was like, I actually really like how that looks. That looks really good. Do I want to add another line? Do I not want to add another line? Like, how do I want this to look? So then I did go ahead and flash cure that line because I was really liking how it looked so far. I was feeling like I needed a third line. I tend to do things in threes. 3 is my number, so I pretty much just do everything, and I do a lot of stuff. And I don't want to say I do everything in threes, but a lot of stuff does get done in threes, especially whenever I'm doing like a nail design or something. So I was like, let me do a third line here and see how this looks. I don't think I ended up liking this line or the placement of this line or how it ended up. Or I might have kept it. I don't remember exactly. I mean, we're about to find out here in the video. But I did do this line, and I did end up wiping that off, I think. I did a couple lines before I decided how I wanted it to be. And then once I got it how I liked it, I was like, I really like that, so I'm going to go ahead and cure it. And then I liked it with the 3 lines. That was it, the 1 thick line and then the 2 thinner lines. And like the way that I had done them and the way that they were set up, yeah, I tried doing it from this way and I really didn't like that. I think the next line that I do after this one, I do end up keeping it. And I really liked like the setup of the lines and the way they were. So I kind of basically just did the same thing for all of the nails. So I did that 1 thicker line and then I did the 2 thinner lines, and I kind of did them all in the same pattern. That might not make very much sense right now, but they all look very similar. Obviously there are some differences between them because this is all hand painted by a human, so it's not going to be the exact same, copy and paste design across all 5 of the nails, but it is very similar and like basically the same setup with the lines across all 5 of the nails. So I do have the 1 thick line and then the 2 thinner lines on all of the nails. And because this nail was the tester nail and I was trying to figure out like what I was doing, I was flash curing in between all of the lines. So if I did make a mistake or I didn't like how I did it, I could easily wipe off and restart. But since I knew this is what I was liking and how I wanted the rest of the nails to look on the rest of the nails, I didn't do any flash curing in between any of the lines. I just got all 3 of the lines painted on and then moved on to the next nail. And then once I got all of the lines done on all of the nails, I did go ahead and cure for a full 60 seconds. then as I was painting on these lines and looking at the nails sitting there on the stand, I was like, I kind of need something else on here just to give it a more, you know, whimsical, magical kind of feel to it. Like I said, I really wanted something that gave spring vibes. So I was like, what can I add to this to kind of give it that spring, magical, whimsical type of feel to it? And I decided to add some little pearls to the nails. I did 3. Like I said, I tend to do things in 3s. I couldn't tell you why, other than like 3 is my favorite number. I don't know. I also think I like the balance of 3 because it's like there's 1 in the middle and then 1 on either side, and I like the evenness of that. You know, I'll also do things in 5s as well because you have the middle and then 2 on either side, you know, in the balance there. Whereas if you do like 4, there's no like real middle, if that makes any sense. Or like you have a middle, but then there's only 1 on this side and 2 on the other. I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes sense to me and in my brain, but yeah. Anyhow, so I went through, I'm using the, what is this? Nail Couture gummy jelly rhinestone glue or whatever. And I'm adding on some little dots of glue on where I'm going to add on the little pearls. And then once I get the glue on, I take the little pearls. I think I used the smallest sized pearls because I felt like that was like so, like it was dainty and cute and, you know, whimsical. And I just felt like those would look the best. And I do feel like it is a little bit much with like the iridescent glitter on the base and then the swirls and then the pearls, but also it all really comes together and it looks super cute. And I think it's a really nice set for spring. Anyhow, got these dollops of glue on, then I applied the pearls. Once I got the pearls on, I did go ahead and cure for 60 seconds. And as you can see, I am doing this differently than how I usually apply like charms and rhinestones and whatever. Usually I will put the rhinestone glue down and then put the my top coat right over top of that, so then I don't have to go around everything and difficult and whatever. But because I am using these pearls, you do want to make sure you're top coating these because the coating will come off. And the white pearls here, it's just like a funky kind of like white color underneath. You lose that shiny pearl coating off of it, whereas with the silver ones it's like this really ugly gray color, to like match with, you know, how it looks or whatever. But anyhow, losing the coating off of the white pearls isn't as noticeable as losing the silver coating off of the silver pearls, is what I'm trying to say here. Anyhow, you do want to make sure you're top coating those so you're not losing that coating and they still do look like those shiny pearls. So because I was going to top coat over these anyhow, I decided to just glue them down with the rhinestone glue and then do one final top coat afterwards, instead of applying a top coat first and then going over top with even more top coat, you know, if that makes sense. So yeah, after I got these on, cured for 60 seconds, now I'm going in with the Nails by Dev matte top coat because I decided I wanted these nails to be matte because I do really like how this glitter looks matte. It kind of gives that same effect of when you take a picture and like the lights are kind of in the distance but they're like blurred out and they're like look like spots. I can't I'm trying to think of what that's called. And I can't remember what it's called. I know it was super popular, like, early Instagram days, or like, you know, Tumblr days and all that, where you have like the little starburst lights, and like, you, when you would edit pictures and stuff, on like those picture editing websites and whatever, you could add it on and like make it different shapes, like stars and hearts and stuff. If you know what I'm talking about. I wish I knew the name, like the term for what this looks like, but I know it's like a photography thing too. Like, anyhow, it looks like it gives that same type of vibe, and I really wanted to keep this matte, but after seeing how it looks shiny before I cured this top coat, I was like, ooh, these look so good shiny too. And I was thinking, should I make them shiny? But I had already applied top coat to like half the nails, and I'm like, nope, I'm just gonna stick with the matte because I don't want to wipe off this top coat and like re-top coat. And or I could have just cured it and then put shiny top coat on top, but I also didn't want to do that because I was just going to add another layer, and I didn't want to add a whole bunch of layers onto this. So I did leave them matte, but I was really liking how they looked here shiny as I was top coating. Like, it looked so pretty. I almost regret not making them shiny. I actually do regret not making them shiny. Not even almost regret it. I fully regret it. Like, I think they look so pretty being matte, like, or shiny like this. They look really pretty being matte too, but I really liked how they looked shiny. Cured that for 60 seconds, and then with the Nails by Dev, a matte top coat, you do have to wipe them off with alcohol to remove the sticky layer and to get the matte effect. So that is what I am doing here, and you can see like the difference between the shiny and the matte there. And as I was wiping them off and seeing like the matteness come through, I was like, yeah, I definitely made a mistake here. Should have left them shiny. I could have applied the shiny top coat over top, but like I said, I didn't want to add another layer on to it. Like, I don't know. I easily could have, and I could have done it pretty thin to where it wasn't going to add too much bulk onto it, but also I was just like, nope, I'm just gonna stick with it and leave them matte. I did, however, go in with shiny top coat and re-top coated the pearls because I did not like how those looked matte, and I didn't want to keep them matte. Like, honestly, I should have just gone through and applied the shiny top coat onto the entire nail, but the pearls being matte was irritating me enough to where I was like, no, I need to fix this because they do not look good being matte. They kind of just blended in with the background and just kind of looked like I had a lumpy nail, or like a rogue glitter was kind of just sticking up. So I was like, yeah, no, we gotta fix this. We gotta make these shiny, make them stand out a little bit. So that's what I did. Applied the shiny top coat onto those and then cured that for 60 seconds. And this is the finished result. I think they came out super pretty, even though I'm not really liking the matte as much as I was liking the shiny. I do still think they are super pretty. I feel like the matte kind of has the glitter. Bless you. I don't know if you hear my sister sneezing in the background or not. She's in the other room, but I could hear her sneeze. I wonder if that picked up on the mic. Anyhow, I feel like the matte, the glitters and the base and that polygel, they stand out a lot more. Whereas when it was shiny, they were kind of hidden a lot more, and like you really had to move the nail around to be able to see all of the glitters, whereas with the matte it's just kind of there and you don't really have to move the nail around too much to see all of that glitter. Like you're just seeing it there, which I do really like that effect. I also really like how they were looking shiny. I just think the design that I chose to do on top of it is what's kind of making me feel like I should have done shiny instead of matte, like with the swirls and the pearls. I think those are making me feel like I should have done shiny over matte, although I do really like how they look matte as well. Well, not the pearls, the pearl, because I did shiny top coat those again, but like the swirls being matte is nice too. I don't know, I just, like I said, I was really liking how they looked shiny, and I feel like I should have just left them being shiny instead of being matte. But they do look really cute matte as well. I think this is a really cute, fun spring set, and it's like the perfect spring set, if you will. But yeah, I do really like it. It's super fun, cute, kind of fairy core-ish. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.